From a black base coat, paint the entirety of the model with the fang. Remember to paint in thin layers, may take 2 or 3 for full coverage. Paint over these areas with rust grey. Rust grey is a layer paint, so it won't cover itself directly over black, so the fang is needed underneath, but it shouldn't take more than 1 or 2 layers then with this colour to complete. Paint the areas to be yellow, so the right shoulder pad and the left knee pad with Avalanche Sunset. Unfortunately, yellow over black does take a while, so you will need several layers. You could also try painting in a lighter colour first, and then painting yellow, but eventually the Avalanche Sunset will cover it at some point. Recess shade the entirety of the blue armoured areas with Griff Charger Grey, taking your time around the finer details. Griff Charger Grey isn't too bad as a paint to correct after the fact, so if you have any overspill you can come back with the rust grey to make it neat, but as best you can keep it just into the deeper recesses. It does take probably the longest section of the whole video, but it certainly sells the effect of the contrasting recesses and raised areas. Then use rust grey just to cover up any areas of overspill. Paint the 2 Crux Terminatus on the shoulder on the knee pad using Mechanica Standard Grey. Paint all areas to either be black or to be a silver colour using a Baden Black. So this is the black and silver details on the armour, the entirety of the gun, and the undersuit in the palm of the hand, the back of the knees, and at the back of the elbows. Gold areas with Retributor armour. In this particular example, it's the Killa on the chest, it's the little adornment hanging off the belt, and the gold areas on the side of the gun, and the little gold skull on the right wrist cover. Paint the silver areas using Iron Hand steel. Once this is done, you should shade both the Mechanicus standard grey areas and the silver areas with non-oil. Unfortunately, this footage didn't record. Basically just cover the area in wash because you'll be tidying up the raised areas afterwards. Shade all the gold areas with dark gold flesh. Really, any of the flesh contrasts work quite well for this. Guilliman flesh is another good option. It just gives kind of a softer effect. Edge highlight the armour with Fenrisian grey. If you wanted to save time here, really the more areas you want to emphasise are things like the face, fine details like on the fingers or any of the sharp corners. For this model I kind of basically did every sharp edge I could find. If you want to get it to kind of characters or kind of elite units, it's certainly worth spending the time, but if you're doing big batches of Terminators, I'd probably keep it to the face and the raised details. Then go back and take out the most extreme corners with dots of blue horror. Really small areas is all you need. That extra pop of colour at the extreme edges of sharp corners really sells the effect. There's one small leather strap on this model, coming off the belt supporting the little gold doodad or whatever it is. So I base coated this with Doomwool brown and then just picked out the sharpest edges using Baneblade brown. Paint the majority of the raised areas on the Crux Terminatus, on the knee and on the shoulder, using Dawnstone. Leave some of the area darker so you can see it there on the skull, kind of in the centre of it, just to give us some degree of contrast in this first step, but the deeper recesses need to stay black, and any other areas basically cover in Dawnstone. Pick out the most raised corners and sharp edges then with Administratum Grey. Pick out the lenses over the right shoulder or right side of the head, first with Mephiston Red. Then using Evil Sun Scarlet fill in most of the centre area. Next, repeat again in the smaller area using Fire Dragon Bright. Do fine dot highlights right in the centre using your yellow. The eye lenses are done in a similar manner, and to be honest you probably do them at the same time. Pick out the majority of the lens firstly with Mephiston Red, just making sure to allow the recesses to remain the darker colour. Paint the front 2/3 of the lens using Evil Sun Scarlet. Paint the front 1/3, so it's half again, using Fire Dragon Bright. Dot the very front of the lenses using Muriel Yellow. And place a single dot of White Scar at the back of the lens to finish the effect. For the purity seals, paint all of the parchment starting with Xandri Dust. Paint the wax part of it using a Fiston Red. Red was picked just because it's a contrasting colour. You could do greens, you could do purples, you could do blues, whichever really suits the model best. Shade both of these areas with Agrax Art Shade. In this example I probably put on too much to begin with, but you can always use a dryer brush just to wick away the excess. And the raised areas are going to get repainted, so just make sure that the wash settles in the deepest recesses and it's fine. Pick out the raised parts of the wax with Evil Sun Scarlet, making sure not to cover in the deeper recesses. And dot the most extreme raised points on the wax using Fire Dragon Bright. Paint the raised areas of the parchment using a Shabti bone. One of the tricks here is just to pull all the paint strokes horizontal, so that even if it's kind of patchy coverage is what you want, it'll look like parchment and give it kind of a striation. Pick out the raised areas using Screaming Skull and just the edge of the brush, just to pick out those prominent edges of the parchment. Paint the casings in the magazine for the Stormbolter using Screaming Bow. Paint the kind of pack marking or whatever it's called on the knee pad, thin Abaddon black, quite dilute, and to pick out the sketch of the areas you want, and then always come back even with 2 more very thin layers to fill it out. But the first layer being quite thin allows you to correct any mistakes quite quickly and get the shapes laid in. Edge highlight the yellow areas using Screaming Skull. When it comes to the knee pad, basically just edge highlight the whole knee pad. You can even run over the corners or the edges of the black areas and it'll look fine. Pick out the most raised and prominent areas of the silver using Stormhole Silver. Edge highlight the gold areas then in the same way using Liberator Gold. To highlight the black of the gun casing, first do a thick edge highlight, or a thicker than usual edge highlight of Eshin Grey. Paint the most prominent corners and any standout rivets using Administratum Grey. You're probably better off drilling the gun barrels for this effect, but I just choose to paint black circles over them, whichever you find easier, but in this case it works absolutely fine. And this is the finished result. If you like this video, feel free to check out the channel where I have numerous other tutorials including more of Space Marines, in particular actually more of the Terminators. And if you'd like to get kept up to date, you are more than welcome to subscribe to the channel.